Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm MENA MASSOUD, and I'm the man of the hour.
You know, the thing I love so much about the show here at the Men of the Hour is that when we invite the most influential men to join me in conversation, we want their life story to shine, inspire you, and bring you a great sense of hope and motivation. Today's guest is actor and host of the Evolving Vegan podcast, MENA MASSOUD. Of course, we know him from the live-action reboot of Aladdin, where he played alongside Will Smith and Naomi Scott, but there's so much to uncover with MENA when it comes to his upbringing, his identity as a Canadian Egyptian man, and everything he's working on to become the best version of himself. He'll be teaching us a lot on this one, I assure you, so let's get right to it. MENA, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it, man.
So you're in Egypt right now. I want to know what the heck you're doing out there, because I would think most people tried to stay put during quarantine, but I assume going back home might have made sense for you. But you're in Egypt now. What took you out there?
Yeah, I was home like everybody else for pretty much, all of 2020. I got an opportunity to, fulfill one of my dreams and come out here and do my first Arabic language Egyptian film. So that's what I'm doing here. It's going to be a good action drama, and just excited to be doing my first film in Egypt finally.
Talk about full circle moment. I was going to get to it a little later, but we can even start there, man. That's huge. First of all, congratulations. Second of all, I know all of us will be excited to see it, although we might need subtitles. I'll be very honest with you. I don't know Arabic, and I'm sure it's a hard language to read and let alone hear and understand. But, why was that a big goal of yours to then go and, film an international Arabic movie now?
Well, when I was a kid, I started watching Egyptian cinema and Egyptian TV before I watched anything in Hollywood, because, my parents were the ones who controlled the television, and they were immigrants from Egypt. They came here when we were young, but they were a little older. So, of course, they were still very much rooted to their culture and their heritage, and that's what they wanted to watch. So that's what we watched as well. And that was really my first introduction to cinema, was Egyptian cinema. And actually in the 1970s, a lot of people don't know this, but in the 1970s, the Egyptian cinema market was the third largest film market in the world, behind Bollywood and Hollywood. So it was very influential for me. Some incredible actors out of Egypt. Obviously, everybody knows Omar Sharif, but there was many more than that. He was really the only one that kind of made the jump to Hollywood. That's why people know him. But some incredible artists here, incredible filmmakers, and it's always been a dream of mine to come back and kind of do a film where it all started.
MENA, how cool, man. I mean, you mentioned you were born there, right, in Cairo, and then Canada at age 3. And you wouldn't, a lot of times when you see somebody, this could be anybody in the world, right? You look at somebody, I don't think you'll ever be able to tell where people are from nowadays, because everybody's from everywhere. But particularly with you, to be born in Egypt and then 3 years later moved to Canada. I mean, I had a similar story with Japan to the US, and then you came to the US. And not to mention all the success in your acting career since you have come here. In hindsight, have you ever told yourself, or really much asked yourself, dang, right, this is my story, this is what the last 29 years of my life has looked like, but then to look in the mirror and be like, well, what does that really mean for you now?
I look at life like it's a journey that's unpredictable, and I think we all can attest to that now. 2020 was a difficult year. I don't think anyone would have seen it coming, except for Bill Gates. But other than that, I don't think anyone saw it coming. And I just go where life takes me. I've learned from people. I like to listen to a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of reading. I always like to better myself. And I actually, I listened to this guy named Andrew Henderson, and he always was taught when he was growing up, just go where you're treated best. We have this tendency to kind of stay put, even when we're not being treated that well. And I'm talking about any aspect of life, right? Whether it's relationships, whether it's work, your job, whatever it is, we tend to stay put even if we're not being treated well. And his mantra is just go where you're treated best. So I don't know where the next 5 years are going to take me. I have goals and dreams and things I want to achieve. Like I'll give you an example. One of my dreams is to move, have a house in Europe somewhere.
Of course.
But with the world changing so fast, when I finally get to that point where I'm able to do that, maybe Europe isn't the place where I'm going to want to move. So I really just take it day by day. The world is unpredictable. There's no formula.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the next 29 years.
I love that, dude. Oh, it'll be a fantastic 29 years. I'll tell you that much. I can tell just by watching you. Do you think with this idea of taking it day by day, how do you take it day by day? That's something I know a lot of people don't necessarily know how to practice. Because I mean, listen, I always used to read that anxiety is really one of those things that comes from thinking too much about the future, not staying present enough. But we're living in a very anxiety-filled life, world, really. So for you, when you do take it day by day, how do you do that?
Well, I have a big struggle with anxiety, and I'm a Virgo. I'm very OCD. I like to plan. I
Same.
like to think ahead. So I am very much that way. But I think just life has taught me that no matter how much you plan, you've also got to be able to hit a curveball. So I do plan, I do look ahead, I do have goals, I have aspirations, but at the same time, you've got to be able, I think successful people are able to adapt very quickly. They're very adaptable. And so, 2020 again was a great example of that. So, what I do personally is I do make a plan, I have a vision board, I do all that stuff, but I also try to see the opportunities as they come. And I try to look at, all right, what can I gain out of this? Whether it's, knowledge wise, spiritually, emotionally, what can I gain out of this? Like the old saying goes, life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So
Yeah.
it's a balance. It's a balance.
Sometimes it's pink lemonade, sometimes it's regular, sometimes it's unsweetened.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, we should call this a show Lemonade Stand after you've been on it. Or maybe your episode will have the word lemons in it. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Incorporated in there somehow.
Mena, your life as an actor, man. I want to talk about it. Gosh, I mean, that's one for you. That's a big one. Just to be an actor, period, or an entertainer, rather, someone who has to sing, do pretty much the song and dance, right? And act. You've been asked to do it multiple times in a lot of the things you've been a part of. But you've wanted to be an actor since you were young. You mentioned it. This is something that you've had your eyes on for a while. And even though a lot of times you can't necessarily project how everything will play out, I'm almost certain that you could at least plan for the best, and you certainly have, and you've been prepared for the best. Not to mention Aladdin, right? Disney Plus and Hulu. I want to throw that on there too. I actually watched it with my roommate a couple weeks ago. And when you think of being in it now, what's the industry been like to you and for you? Because I wanted to ask you, do you keep falling in love with it to where you keep wanting doing it more when it comes to acting, or thinking maybe there's more for you out there than just acting now that you've been in it for a minute?
It's a really good question, man. Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I think as you grow older, you realize that there's more to life than just one thing. When you're younger, you get fixated on things. So I started in this industry. My first ever, professional job on camera where I got paid was back in 2011. So 10 years ago now. When I started, I was just really fixated on it. That was my life, even though I might have been in a relationship, went to school, but that I was really fixated on it. Nothing mattered more. And I think as you grow up, you realize that there is more to life than just any one thing. And so I think a little bit of that obviously has made its way into my life. Like I look at my life now, I was like, yeah, there's more to life than just acting or just entertaining or just your job essentially, or what you're passionate about. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, I've been in love with it since I was a kid. I still am in love with it. But I also find other things that I'm passionate about and things that I like, and I try to see how I can incorporate it into my job, like veganism and plant-based life. I decided, okay, how can I incorporate that with what I do, and I wrote a book and got a book published and did that. So there's always ways to kind of incorporate my other passions into what I'm good at and what I do. Um, and you know, it's a weird thing. You know, the relationship you have with your job is still a relationship. It might not be with a specific person or an individual. It
Yeah.
might be with an industry or you know, with a craft, but it's still a relationship. And like any relationship, there's ebbs and flows. um you know,
Yeah.
there's times you get mad at it, times that you're incredibly happy with it. So overall, I can't complain. I've always said that I'm incredibly grateful for every opportunity that I get, whether it's in acting or just in life in general. I think an opportunity is something that you should always be grateful for. So
Mm.
I'm grateful for where the industry has led me so far, and excited for what's to come.
I love that, man. Sounds like a acceptance speech. So I'm just going to call it the next the next big project you go after. It might be this Egyptian film, man. If you go in for any of these Academy Awards or whatever award show is coming, I don't know what the Egyptian Academy Awards look like, but I'm gonna say you go ahead and write that speech, buddy. I'll go ahead and put in a recommendation. But
All right.
you said opportunity, and I think sometimes, especially with someone like you, who something like acting is where the opportunity has to exist, and you have to be placed in the right place at the right time, and you have to get the gig, so they say. Then you have the other part of your life, which is your book publishing. Then you have, you know, not just you being vegan, but the evolving vegan brand that you've built, right? And then 10 times that with all the other stuff that you're passionate about and probably working on behind the scenes. That is all almost creating the opportunity, right? Don't you think?
100%. Yeah.
There's, I often say this. I'm like, well, a part of it is seeing the opportunity, going after it for one that exists. And then sometimes, especially if you have spare time, like in 2020, when we all did, right? All of us had spare time. You look at something and it's not even in existence yet, but then say, well, I'm going to create that. I'm going to launch that book and I'm going to publish it, or I'm going to launch that brand and I'm going to go after it and build a business around it. So when you were building, take Evolving Vegan, for example, I wanted to talk about that. When you were building that and having to create the opportunity, was there a balancing act that you had to put into place? And then ultimately, like, what were you learning while having to build something that wasn't yet an opportunity?
Well, I think I shifted my perspective. When I was younger, coming out of theater school, I was always waiting for the opportunity. So, you know, I picked up a restaurant job so that I could pay bills, and all that kind of stuff. But pretty much I was waiting for the opportunity. I was waiting to get auditions. I was waiting to book that thing. And again, life and my experiences just taught me that, you know, you're going to waste your life if you just keep waiting for the opportunity. So at a certain point in time, I just decided, okay, like the opportunities that I just received, let's call them, you know, auditions.
Sure.
Those are just bonus. Those are bonus. Those are amazing. And that's why I'm incredibly grateful for them, because at the end of the day, they just come to me, right? Those opportunities, they just come, and I'm grateful for those. Some people get those opportunities more than others. Some people constantly get those opportunities, some people don't. And I think, you know, being visibly ethnic, being a minority, all those things, anyone who's an immigrant to any country, even if you are a Caucasian man that's an immigrant to a non-Caucasian country, that's still you being an immigrant. So any immigrant understands the struggle of lack of opportunity. So I think opportunities are a bonus, but at the end of the day, what you have to do in order to ensure that you're successful is that you have to go out and try to create your own opportunities. So that's why I started my production company, Press Play Productions. That's why I wrote a book. You know, when I wrote Evolving Vegan, before I wrote it, when I was just pitching the idea, a lot of publishers thought I was crazy. You know, this was before Beyond Meat was a $7 billion company. This was before Impossible. This was before, you know, the big vegan, you know, rage that's going on right now, plant-based food rage. So when I was pitching publishers, a lot of them thought I was crazy. They just kept saying it's too niche, it's too niche, it's too niche. I still hear that word now, but I saw the opportunity that plant-based is not going to be niche in a few years. You'll look back 10 years from now, people will listen to this podcast, and I'm telling you now, vegan will no longer be niche. There will be more people that eat plant-based than not in certain parts of the world. So, I just, it's something I'm passionate about. It's something that's helped me in my life. So I wanted to create the opportunity for myself and start Evolving Vegan. Evolving Vegan is, more than a company. It's really just a mantra. It's what I believe people should be aiming towards. If you just continuously try to eat more plant-based, I'm not saying cut out all meat, cut out all animal products, but if you continuously try to eat more plants and less meat, it will be better for not only your health, but for the planet and for the animals. So Evolving Vegan is really just, it's a mantra. It's something that I live by. And I went ahead and wrote a book to kind of show people that it's incredibly accessible no matter where you go in North America and the world by and large. And that, now you have like 80 recipes that you can try out at home, and maybe it helps you get inspired and helps you get more into plant-based foods.
And it's all an evolution because life's a process. You said it earlier. You got 29 years ahead of you, man, 29 great years, and you want them to be good ones. And when you can do something like just changing what you're putting in your body and that be universally beneficial for the planet, the animals, and you, there's no reason to not at least try it. There's a lot of misconceptions and why people or why people avoid trying going vegan, but it's always worth a shot. You know what I mean? Even if it's like you said, you don't have to cut everything out at once. Like that's almost like what someone would do if they were trying to juice. You don't cut out everything at one time. You slowly get into it. But yours is more of that universal big picture mantra. It's good for all, and it is really good for you.
Yeah, 100%. I don't ever recommend anyone, do it all at once. I think that's a shock to your system.
Yeah.
It's also hard just mentally. And I think people fail when they try to do that. Like you can't just go from eating meat, 5-6 times a week,
right,
to eating it, none times a week. And the reason I know that is because I did it growing up. I mean, I'm Coptic Orthodox. So during the big holidays, during Christmas and Easter, what we do is we give up meat. And so I did it all growing up where, it came that time of the year where for 2 months I had to give up meat completely. And it sucked. I hated it. I mean, I didn't want to do it. But even though, technically I was being vegan by doing it, I hated it. So again, that's where that idea of slowly coming to it, evolving, that's where that comes in. I think that's the better way to do it.
Totally. How do you feel for the last 6 years? You were 23 when you decided to go vegan fully, right? Or at least get more into it and let it become a part of your life. But how do you feel when it comes to energy, gut health? I'm big on gut health. Sometimes I have coffee, Mina, and I'm like, well, there goes the bloat. And I'm like, damn, I need to maybe take coffee out of my system or whatever. But how do you feel overall when it comes to energy and just like living your day to day? Your hours per day are probably extensive. So how do you feel since you went vegan?
I do just feel better. I do feel better. And I also encourage people to do whatever's good for their bodies. I mean, if you're eating vegan and you feel like you're, low in your omegas or your B12 and you want to eat a piece of fish, go for it. I mean, it's all a learning process. It's all an experience. It's your body. It's your life. No one can come up to you and say, well, no, you're vegan, you can't have that. Like, no, try it, go for it, see how you feel. And I know for me personally that I just feel a lot better on a plant-based diet. I feel lighter, even if I eat a massive meal, right? Massive meal, I'll be okay in an hour. Whereas when I used to eat meat and I had a massive meal, man, that might sometimes that was it for my day. I mean, forget about it. I'm not getting up. I'm going to bed. Because you got to understand our intestinal tracts are built differently, right? Our intestinal tracts on average are twice as long as that of a true carnivore, like a wolf, or, you know, any true carnivore, they have half the intestinal tract that we have. The reason for that is very scientific. It's because when they eat meat, you want to get it in and out of your system as quickly as possible. You don't want it to sit in your gut. That's the whole point. That's why, you know, wolves are built that way. You want to get it in and out of your system as soon as possible. With us, our intestinal tracts are twice as long. So when you eat meat, it still sits in your gut. And that's why you feel lethargic and tired, and all that stuff. So all that to say, you know, just the most important thing is to be in tune with your body. Try different things, see how you feel. But I know personally that I just feel a lot better. I have more energy. I feel a lot lighter. I can digest food a lot faster. Even if I eat a massive meal, like I said, I'll be okay in an hour. So for me, it just feels a lot better. And now with all the substitutes that exist, you know, those Beyond Meat burgers and Impossible burgers and all that stuff, they're coming out with steaks and fish and shrimp. That's all vegan. I'm not going to tell you it's amazing for you, because it is processed, and you should really try to eat as many whole foods as possible. But, you know, to satisfy a craving, you know, that stuff's out there.
Oh yeah. I've tried it. It's pretty good. The episode you're listening to is supported by our great friend Vicky Gruhl and her company Cosmic Green Candles, a company I must say has an incredible mission. This Massachusetts-based company has candles that are made from 100% soy wax and use wood wicks to light their candles. Not only that, but Vicky and her team have been supporting reforestation with one tree planted as a part of their commitment to sustainability since they opened their shop. Which means when you purchase a candle for a friend or loved one, you will also be supporting our planet. They are out now with an amazing Valentine's Day scent collection that will totally help you set the mood for whatever your Valentine plans are this year. I know those plans may not be far from your living room, but that's even more reason to have a candle or two help light the mood. You see what I did there? We all love when a room we walk into smells like love, especially when the one we love is in that very room. So trust me when I say I think you should head to CosmicGreenCandles.com today and use our code Valentine10 for 10% off at checkout. Come on, what do you have to lose? Candles are the one thing that make the intimate stage an actual thing during Valentine's Day, and if you're like me, you're spending it alone but still need candles to help set the mood. Now I'm going to keep playing the episode while you head to CosmicGreenCandles.com and use our code Valentine10 for 10% off to set that sexy intimate mood that I know you want and deserve this year. Have you done from scratch, make a Beyond Burger or an Impossible patty of some kind? Have you done anything where like you actually crumbled up? Like, I could only imagine. Couldn't you do that for yourself? Cut up all these vegetables and ingredients and make a patty, and it's a veggie burger, right? That's very much better route to go than the processed foods.
100%. I mean, right. I have a recipe in my book that's a veggie burger made with vegetables. There's also a great spot in LA that takes that approach, and I love them for it. They're called Burger Lords, and they make, you know, their patties are made from nuts and whole foods. And, you know, if you ask me, it's amazing. And you feel better when you eat it, as opposed to something that's a little bit more processed. So everything is out there now. That's the beauty of, you know, the world that we live in now. Everything is out there. You want this, it's there. You want that, it's there. So try it, see what you like best, see what your body responds to. And that's why I'm saying the most important thing is that you're in tune with your body. When you eat something, you know, that you're aware of how it makes you feel. When I was eating meat, again, I didn't think that way. I didn't think about like, oh, I just had a steak and I felt this way. I just kind of I shoved stuff into my mouth and I just didn't think about it after.
Yeah.
But after I went vegan, I was just, because I took the process approach, I was a lot more cognizant of what foods did to my body and how they made me feel. A lot of us, I would say the majority of us, don't think about that. We just shove stuff into our mouth and we don't think about how it makes us feel.
We barely taste anything anymore. I remember I was listening to something on Instagram and it was like, even if you're drinking water, you should breathe when you drink water. And I was like, oh my God, wait, a lot of times I'm just scarfing. Even it could be the healthiest meal. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'm scarfing down my throat and I'm like, oh, well, that tasted good. I ate for the day. But sometimes I know you got to slow down, taste your food. And to your point earlier, figure out what works in your body. Do you feel lethargic after? Do you feel good? Do you feel bad? You know, is it bad for you? Maybe you should pay attention to what you're actually putting in your body. Have you always been this conscious about your health, or did that happen at 23? Was there a major life event that made you really switch gears in your mindset as to how you want to live your life?
Yeah, no, I haven't always been like that. I think it all happened when I was 23, and I think
Yeah.
that's why, going plant-based has had such an effect on me, because it's been more than just, changing the things that I eat. I just started becoming really aware of what I'm putting into my body and what my body needs. I'm the kind of guy now. I wasn't like this when I was younger, obviously, but I'm the kind of guy now that will read all the ingredients when I'm buying something from the store. I
Same.
will flip over the package and I will read all the ingredients.
Yep.
It was funny. My girlfriend the other day, she picked something up from the store thinking it was vegan. And she was like, look what I found, it's vegan. I was like, no, I saw that 2 days ago. And I know it's not vegan because I looked at the back and I read what everything is. Some people have tendencies to do that and some people don't. They just kind of look at the label, look at the branding, and that's, and I mean, fair enough. That's the whole point of branding. That's why companies spend millions of dollars on branding, because they don't want you to necessarily pick it up and flip it over and look what's in the ingredients. It's like, okay, this looks good, I'll pick it up. But I just got into the habit of picking things up and looking at the ingredients. And
Yeah.
I'm not looking to see whether it's vegan. I mean, Oreos are vegan. I'm not picking them up to check whether they're vegan. I'm picking them up to see what's in them.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is in them? How processed is it? Is it made from whole foods? What are the nutritional facts? Does it
Right.
have iron? Does it have B12? Yeah, it's important, man. It's what you put in your body. Like, just don't put junk in your body. You are
Mm.
what you eat. Your cells do regenerate and you do become what you eat. So, yeah, I mean, that should be the most important thing. One of the most important things that everybody does every day is is being aware of what they put in their body. I'm not going to tell you to eat healthy. If you're aware that you're eating junk and you want to eat junk, cool, go for it. But the worst thing that can happen is that you don't know what you're eating and you don't know what you're putting in your body, and it turns out to be really bad for you.
Right. Mm. Even long-term effects of certain foods. If you eat it long enough and it's that bad for you, it could be knocking some years off your life, right? Scary as that is, it might be true. I remember it's the same effect smoking has. You do it long enough, it'll cause certain things to happen. Same with food.
Yeah.
It could
Yeah.
at least.
Permanent damage versus temporary damage. Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, yeah, again, it's what you're putting into your body. Just be aware. That's really it. Just be aware of what you're putting into your body. That's really it. And I mean, the reason fast food is so dangerous is because it's not that easy to figure out what's in everything. That's why it's dangerous. It's not because it's not healthy. I mean, most fast food isn't, but that's not the reason. The reason it's so dangerous is because it's really difficult to track down, how X burger is made or this sandwich is made. It's just it's hard. You can't just flip over the package and read the nutritional information.
Yeah.
That's why fast food is a little difficult.
I used to think Chick-fil-A was probably a better option. I still don't even want to go there anymore, right? Just make your own food or figure out healthier options. You know?
Yeah, or find a spot that is healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
Mina, I don't want to continue this conversation without bringing up the fact that both of us, I think, in my eyes, and this isn't, a lot of people, but in my eyes, I look at you and I say, that is someone who's been around the world, who's been raised by parents who have taken him around the world. And more importantly, someone who I would think is very grounded in who they are after having been born in one country, raised in another, and then built a career in one. So, with that, I wanted to ask you if you've ever come to a point in your life where you've learned to accept being Canadian Egyptian and the color of your skin, what you look like, the languages that you speak, and what point in your life were you able to fully embrace all of that as all positives? I see it as all positives, but it took me some time, even as a Japanese American who still struggles to speak Japanese. When I go to Japan, I'm never Japanese enough and I'm never white enough. And you've also said that, right? We don't always feel like we're one or the other. And then my mom once told me when I was younger, she goes, Justin, you're 100% Japanese and you're 100% American. So with that in mind, was there ever a point in time when you were fully accepting of who you were, where you were from, and what you looked like?
Yeah, I think I'm right now I'm starting to embrace it. It's a difficult thing, being an immigrant for sure, because, or, coming from two different cultures, because yeah, you go back to Egypt and you're not Egyptian enough. You're in Canada, you're not Canadian enough. And I think that's starting to change because people are migrating all over the world.
Yep.
But yeah, it's definitely difficult. It's not as easy as people think it is, and you struggle with it. And it really just depends on a lot of things. It depends on what you do for a living. It depends on who you surround yourself with. It
Mm,
depends on a lot of different things. But I think at a certain point, you've got to work to accept who you are. And I mean, it goes beyond your culture. It can be your sexual orientation. It can be lots of different things, but
yep.
learning to accept who you are and being happy with who you are, it's a very difficult thing. It's a very real thing that everybody struggles with. But when it comes down specifically to, where you're from, yeah, I mean, listen, the the Middle Eastern, every culture has their own experience. The Middle Eastern experience is a difficult one to navigate in North America because of what happened in 9/11, right? Like my experience of life was different pre 9/11 and post 9/11. Pre 9/11, it was like, wow, you're from Egypt. That's so cool. The pyramids, the culture, the history. Wow, that's amazing. After 9/11, it became a little bit more negative. There was more of a stigma on it. It was like, whoa, you're an Arab? Or do you speak Arabic? Are you a terrorist? What's your religion? Right? It became less about the history and the beauty of the culture and more about what happened in America, and what people like you did to America. So for every culture is different, right? We learn that in school. There's a prejudice against almost every culture in the
Right.
world, right? Stereotypes. So every culture is different, but I can only speak to my experience. I can't speak to your experience as a Japanese American. I can't speak to someone else's experience as a Latin American. I can only speak to my experience.
Mm,
And that was my experience growing up in Canada, that after 9/11, things did shift because of my name, where I was born, and even my passport. Your
yeah.
passport says where you were born. I grew up with other Egyptian Canadians that happened to be born in Canada. So on their passport, it says born in Canada.
Hmm.
Their experience was very different than mine. I know it seems silly, but a passport's kind of a big deal. So even with your passport, it's different, because I could technically, someone who doesn't really know cultures that well could mistake me for maybe Latin, could
Yeah.
mistake me from maybe like, the south of Italy. They could mistake me for a lot of things. But because my passport clearly says I was born in Egypt, there's no doubt that, I'm a Middle Eastern man or a North African man. So, yeah, you've got to learn. You've got to learn to just accept it. You can't go around the world being mad at the world, or being mad at people's stereotypes. You've got to just learn to accept it, and who you are as a human being. So you're happy with that, and you're confident in yourself. And yeah, I'm North African, but I'm damn proud of it.
Hell yeah,
I
you
know the
are.
truth. I
Yeah.
know the truth. Some other people may think that all Arabs are terrorists, but I know the truth. I know that that's not the case at all. And
Right.
it's an incredibly small portion of where we come from. The extremists, and there's extremists in every culture, and I think we're seeing that in America now.
Yeah.
There's even extremists in America. So extremists are extremists. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, your religion, or where you're from.
Yeah. And then also to note that the world is a smaller place than we think. if you think of just how many continents we only have and the earth being just one planet. I remember I used to think that. I was like, gosh, why do I feel so different? Why does someone like you, because you look a certain way, have to be, tacked with prejudice, stereotypes, or whatever they might be? And I used to always think, I was like, well, the world's smaller than we think, and we're all very, very much alike, more than different. And I think the older you get and the more grounded you are in who you are, even as a 29-year-old man now, that's all you can ask for. If you're grounded, you know exactly what you're doing, where you're going. You'll only be able to accept everybody else in the same,
100%, man. We're all human beings, and I'm a big believer that even when it comes to religion, we're all the same.
Right.
The technical stuff might be different, but most religions preach love, acceptance, treating your neighbor like yourself. Most religions have a lot of the same fundamentals. And so, to me, it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, doesn't matter your religion. We're all human beings. And if we all just lived through life with a little bit more love, the whole world would be a much better place. So the more we can practice love and acceptance, the better the world will be.
Right. I couldn't agree more. Your life as an entrepreneur, before we wrap this episode with you, buddy, do you think, obviously you mentioned earlier that there's some challenges that will come with it, and you have to kind of shift your perspective when you do launch a business, a book, a production company, merchandise around the brand. There's all these other business elements to you, now as MENA Massoud, because I feel like when we look at you on screen, it's, oh, well, that's an actor. That's changing every day in the business. I feel like almost every actor, entertainer in the world of Hollywood, Bollywood, or Egyptian movies, like you said, has their own something, company, brand, book. And that's a beautiful thing. I think the more you can do, the more you can accomplish in life, the more fulfilled you'll be. So when you went on the entrepreneur adventure as to launching Evolving Vegan, including the cookbook, the podcast, the merchandise, and then now your production company, was there a point where you looked at it as, I'm just going to do whatever it takes to be an entrepreneur to make sure these things come to life? And were there some challenges along the way?
Yeah, there's always challenges when you're trying to create something, and entrepreneurs, are artists in a way as well. I have a great respect for a lot of entrepreneurs. Some of my friends are literally just entrepreneurs for a living. They create businesses. That's what they do. And it's becoming more and more of a thing now. If you look at SPACs in the stock market, those guys are literally entrepreneurs that are, basically creating SPACs, acquiring companies, all that stuff. Anyways, I'm going to go down a completely different path there, but
you go down whatever path you want, man. This is your episode.
Yeah, I just I enjoy the business element of things. I enjoy learning. I enjoy learning about different, different businesses. I'm really heavy into cryptocurrency learning right now. I'm trying to learn about what it is and exactly what it does. A lot of people have this misconception that cryptocurrencies are currencies. Not all of them are currencies. In fact, most of them aren't. They're basically software solutions to certain problems. We just call them cryptocurrencies, and most people don't know the difference. So they just assume that they're, taking over fiat currencies like the US dollar and the euro and all that stuff. But a lot of them aren't currencies at all. They're software solutions. Anyway, so I like educating myself. I like learning. And I think I just live with the mentality that if you put your mind to something, you can do anything. You just can. Like, if you really put your mind to it and you really want to do it, you can do it. Stop waking up in the morning and thinking that you can't do something, or that it's too big, it's bigger than you, it's too impossible, it's too difficult. No, it might take time. It might take a lot of time. But if you really believe in yourself and your abilities, and you're really passionate about something and you really want to get it done, you'll get it done. You'll get it done. You just got to put in the work and put in the time. And, sometimes I stretch myself a little too much, but at the end of the day, you've got to prioritize. You've got to look at what you want to accomplish what you want to build and just work towards building that thing. So when I started my production company, I knew it wasn't going to be an overnight thing, especially because, you know, I have other things going on. So there's only so much time I can put into building the company and all of that. But it's a slow process. And I truly believe deep down inside, it'll, you know, become a great thing. It'll flourish into this incredible business. So I put my time into it.
I love it. Hey, friends, if the impossible burger wasn't impossible, right? That next project or business you want to launch is also not impossible, to Mina's point. That's it, right? As cheesy as that sounds, I mean, who would have thought that they would have created food around that? And then you're right, man. And first of all, congratulations on the launch of everything you've launched. I didn't know half of that until I started researching you when you said yes to come on the show, which I'm very thankful for because we spent the last hour chatting it up and you've probably inspired me for the rest of the damn month, you know, for February going forward. We're almost in February, which is absolutely insane. Mina,
Yeah.
I got one more question and I want to hear about all the upcoming stuff in addition to this Egyptian movie that's going to come out. So when you're faced with a really, really, really tough day, could be with work, could be with life, where you're just mentally distraught, looking at yourself like today was just a tough ass day. Is there one thing you look at in your life that kind of keeps you going and that you look at to be that one thing to ensure you come out stronger of that day?
Yeah, a couple of things. I look at my loved ones, the people that I love and the people that love me, because at the end of the day, I think you know, when you're doing something for more than yourself, I think it helps you push further. And I also look back to where I started.
Mm.
I can always get frustrated, but I look back to my humble beginnings, you know, working at a restaurant, working 12-hour shifts. And you know, I'm just humbled by it.
Yeah.
So whenever I have a tough day and I think like things just aren't going my way, what the hell is going on? I just look back to where I've come from, and it gives me the perspective that a lot has gone my way, and a lot will continue to go my way, and that I just gotta, you know, get through the storm.
Oh, Mina, I'm excited for you. I'm really excited for this Egyptian movie. But what else can we expect from Mina? I guess going into the continuing this 2020 year. I mean, there's a lot of great things still happening in the world of entertainment. I'm sure you're producing a lot of great things, but if you had to give us some teasers, maybe an exclusive one or two, what else you working on when you come back, especially from filming in Egypt?
Yeah, so I'm doing this film in Egypt in broad daylight. It's going to be my first ever Arabic language film, which has been, like I said, a dream of mine. I'm also doing a film for Netflix this year with, you know, the beautiful Laura Morano,
Mm.
and that'll be shot in New Zealand. So I'll be going there and quarantining for 2 weeks. It'll just be an interesting experience. It's like one of the only countries in the world that basically doesn't have coronavirus. So I'm
They don't want
excited
it. So they
to.
said you're going to quarantine for 2 weeks before you get on set.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well, it's not just on set. I mean, anyone who enters the country
Yeah.
has to quarantine. Even if you leave for 24 hours, you're coming back and you're quarantining for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm actually, in a weird way, I know it's going to be difficult, but in a weird way, I'm excited to see what the process is like again, because it's a learning experience. One of the only countries in the world that doesn't have like a single case, so I want to see how they're doing it. Um, and then also, yeah, with Press Play Productions, we're ramping up productions this year. Hopefully, going to have some, you know, big exciting projects to talk about. But we are producing a few short films and other projects that we have going on. So I'm excited for this year, and I have a positive outlook. I think things are going to get better
Mhm.
this year, and I think the world will start to we'll start to get healthier. So I'm looking forward to that.
Man, I am too. It'll be a great year. So let's make it that way. I want you to go back and keep filming this Egyptian movie, man. So I'm going to let you go. But Mina Massoud, thank you for being today's man of the hour for many reasons that we just talked about and more, for coming by the podcast and ultimately saying yes to even being on the show, even though you're in Egypt. We'll certainly get you back as the year keeps going on. And I know that you're going to be working on a lot of other projects as well. So thank you so much again, buddy.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate you for having me, man.
Cool, bud. For everybody listening right now, just be sure to find all the great things MENA is up to, including The Evolving Vegan, the book, the podcast, and merchandise around it, his production company. Plus, don't forget, Instagram is the very best place that we all like to go. So MENA is at his full name, MENA Massoud, MENA MASSOUD. And we're at Men of the Hour Podcast. I would spell that out, but it would take too damn long. If you're bored on the weekend, just be sure to also sit back, relax, grab some popcorn. And Aladdin is available on Disney Plus and Hulu. So until next time, my friends, keep building the best version of yourself. We'll see you soon. Hey, it's Justin Crawford, and I want to thank you so much for being here on this very episode today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will certainly be back next Monday with another great guest. Until then, if you would be so kind as to leave a rating and review right here, we would love to hear your thoughts on the show and how we can bring you exactly what you need. The Men of the Hour podcast is also on Instagram and YouTube at Men of the Hour Podcast, where you can find the full video interviews with our guests and all the sneak peek exclusives. Thanks again for listening. Now get out there and make a positive change for yourself and those around you.